Our friends at the Progressive States Network, Fabiola Carrión is Broadband and Green Jobs Policy Specialist at the Progressive States Network, and she joins us here at the booth right here at the Seaport District. Great to have you, Fabiola.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Well, it's great to do so. You're obviously concerned about all the issues that are going on in every state, including what has happened in Wisconsin in the last 24 hours. And I want to get to that and get the take of the Progressive States Network on a very proud state of Wisconsin, is very proud of its way of electing leaders and so forth. But to start this off, we're on a media reform. What does the Progressive States Network think of how politics is talked about today, how legislation is talked about, and how balanced it is?
Well, as you know, the Progressive States Network is a coalition of state legislators and advocates, and we cover many issue areas, including workers' rights, including broadband, which you pointed out. And we really want to sort of connect all of the policy areas into creating a progressive narrative and making sure that those issues are addressed as a story and really advance the cause of the progressive movement. And within that, obviously, we want all of our politics to be portrayed in a way that's objective, in a way that really is examined under the lens of working families, and that is very important, and that's why we're here. Well,
it's great to have you here. Give me a background on some of the projects and some of the issues that you've been working on, both yourself and the Progressive States Network, so people who don't know a lot about the organization.
Sure. So you pointed out the example of Wisconsin. We issue a letter of solidarity on behalf of state legislators to support Wisconsin workers and our Wisconsin senators who bravely left the state in protest of Governor Walker. And right now we have a solidarity letter that we're hoping to get signed by all the state legislators across the country. So we have that along the way. And we're really not only working in Wisconsin, we're working in Ohio, we're working in Indiana. We cover many issue areas, immigration being one of them, obviously against SB 1070 and making sure that there are no more copycat legislation that is spread across the country.
We're talking with Fabiola Carrión of the Progressive States Network. Again, she is a broadband and green jobs policy specialist at the Progressive States Network. And here at the National Media Reform, I think one of the issues that I think need to be brought up is bringing the coalition, what we have joined, and we even like with our colors behind me, the Blue-Green Alliance, is something that we are very big on. And I think that, when you think about green jobs, it's something that you're working on personally. This, to me, is such a critical component of our economy and jobs in the future. And they have to be jobs for folks in the Latino community, in the African-American community, and those who have really been hit hard by this economy.
Absolutely, and we're working very closely with our state legislators here in Massachusetts. We understand that there has been a closure of a couple of very important companies here, and we definitely support policies like corporate transparency and accountability to make sure that our workers stay at work. We're definitely in the environmental and progressive movement. We work with folks like the Blue-Green Alliance, folks like the Sierra Club to make sure that more green jobs are created and that they're sustained, that they stay here in America. Earlier this year, we launched the 2011 Blueprint for Economic Security, where we really wrap up, as I was saying earlier, all of the issues, economic security, building prosperity, workers' rights, healthcare, in really creating that progressive narrative.
Well, I think it's so critical, and we work with people with the likes of Leo Gerard and Margareta Strand of the Blue-Green Alliance and others, who I think are so important to bringing these groups of people together.
Absolutely.
There are some folks that don't think that the environment is that important. There are those folks who only concern themselves with jobs. Obviously, they're both important, and green jobs, and those folks that are working in the communities, particularly in the communities of color, to understand how this is important. Do you sense, and one of the great things about the Progressive States Network and organizations like yours is there's a real sort of energy by a lot of young people in their 20s and 30s. And I think that's something that is really important. You see it here at this conference. And I think that, the tragedies of what has happened in Japan, the oil spill, on the environment has brought people together. Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And the Progressive States Network was sort of re-energized after the 2008 election, when so many voters came out in support of the current administration. And even though things have shifted in the last midterm elections, young voters, young activists are very much the base of the Progressive States Network, and they care just as much as as the rest of the population about creating jobs and making sure that they stay, and not really thinking about the environmental movement as being a separate cause, but really advancing the green economy as really the solution of creating jobs here in America that stay here in America.
One of the things that I think is interesting is looking at the fact that there's a real need to get more people who are minorities, but also it's great to see, and obviously you're a great part of this, a lot more younger women involved in politicians. You know, you see the state senators and the members of the House of Representatives, a lot of men, a lot of white men over 50. I think it's really important to see more and more people be active, and maybe they run, maybe yourself someday, to run for elective office in the state level.
A lot of our state legislators are minority legislators, are women legislators. We definitely do not see them as being, or as being much of a part of the progressive movement. And definitely we want to make sure that they run for elected office, that they continue to be community organizers, that they are portrayed well in the media. So I'm sure it's a cause that you care about deeply.
I think the final question for our good friend Fabiola Carrión of the Progressive States Network. Again, she's a policy specialist on green jobs and broadband. When it comes to broadband, this has been an issue. It's right front and center with the recent AT&T purchase of T-Mobile. And one of the areas, of course, when we talked to our friends at the communication workers, Mr. Cohen and the company, about what this would mean for those folks who don't understand. And there are a lot of folks, say over 50, who are unaware of what even broadband means. Is there, in your mind, a now movement both in Washington and around the country to expand this to the rural community, to the people of color and so forth?
Absolutely. About 1/3 of the nation is still digitally disconnected. Broadband, or high-speed internet, which is really the short-term definition for broadband, is essential now. We used to only think about it as sending emails or looking at videos online, but it's so much more. It's about applying for jobs. It's about being competitive in the workforce, no matter what your education level is. It really is no longer a luxury, but an economic tool. You need it to survive in today's economy.
Well, it's a fascinating time to be part of the Progressive States Network. Yeah. We look forward to having you and your colleagues on as we move into the springtime here, and hopefully get some things done. I guess I want to get your final thoughts here on what is happening in the last 24 hours in Wisconsin with these votes that are somehow being come up. It would seem to me that one of the things that the progressive organizations like Progressive States Network are concerned about is electoral reform, and obviously having votes in a computer in somebody's home is not a great way to do things. Your thoughts?
Election reform is one of the issue areas that we cover at the Progressive States Network. As one, making votes, both voter registration and actual voting, making the process easier, and definitely engaging more of the youth, as we spoke about earlier. We have seen that with Wisconsin, the progressive movement has reawakened, which is sort of like a blessing in disguise. So we look forward to seeing more of our base really vote some of the folks who supported Governor Walker in Wisconsin out and continue to be mobilized.
That's fantastic. Fabiola Carrión here on the Jeff Santos Show. Thank you so very much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.